I'm very aware that everyone is at a different stage of their sustainability journey. Some of you might not be even interested in sustainable living. I'm hoping that you are in some small part. So I'm starting basically with the basics, because I can't assume that people are at one level or another. So we're starting pretty much with the basics. So let's get started. I want to tell you a quick bit about me and my sustainability journey, which started about 10 years ago now, and it boggles my mind that it was that long ago. But I was doing a 30-day video challenge with a networking friend of mine, and we just moved to acreage, not the acreage we're on currently, but acreage in Gaven. And we already had a solar hot water system. We already had septic system. We already had chickens and vegetable gardens. And we were trying to be self-sufficient as possible, and with the thought of going off grid as much as we could. Being in Gold Coast City Council at the time, you can't go completely off grid, unfortunately. And when I started researching for these videos, I was researching self-sufficiency, and you can't do that without coming across lots of things about sustainable living. And it was those subjects that I was delving into on the web that I realized that in terms of waste production, I was not the solution, I was part of the problem. And I needed to give myself a good kick up the backside, because I was haphazard when taking my reusable tote bags to the supermarket. Every couple of cups of coffee I was buying at a cafe in those disposable paper cups with plastic lids and plastic linings. And when I went to the petrol station to fill up with fuel, that stupid lady would say to me, for an extra 4 cents off per litre, would you like chocolates or bottled water? And I'm always watching my weight, so I'd always say, oh, bottled water, please. And so I was bringing back to the house all of these plastic bottles of water. So I recognised that I needed to be the change I wanted to see in the world and start making some changes in our lives. And because you don't want to cause panic in your family, you need to start really slow. Now, some of those things over the years now have changed. Plastic bags are kinda outlawed in supermarkets, but they're not really, as you all know. But we are more conscious of things that we can do, and there are more products available in the market that we can use. So anyway, that's just a quick précis version of where I found myself and why I started to research sustainable living and get so involved in it. The coffee cup situation, and I hope that you follow along with this, it's just an absolute nightmare. Those coffee cups that you get at Gloria Jeans or Starbucks or that sort of thing, we use in Australia 2.7 million a day. They end up in landfill. 90% of those end up in landfill. And if people try to recycle them, because they have a thin layer of polypropylene inside of them to stop the liquid leaching out and burning your lap while you're driving, that can't go through your normal recycling process. Neither can the plastic lids. So it's a really big environmental problem. So if that's one thing that you get out of tonight's webinar, please buy yourself a Keep cup and keep that in your handbag. I'm not purporting any particular version, but I have tried several over the last 10 years, and I have a Frank Green one, which cost me quite a bit of money. But in terms of leak proof, it is absolutely leak proof. You can put that in your handbag with the last dregs of your coffee or tea in it, and it certainly won't leak into your handbag. So that's a thing to think about. So when I was researching, I came across some zero waste gurus, and I'd just like to share a couple of those with you, because if you want to learn more about sustainable living, apart from listening to me, you should check these guys out, or ladies out. Bayard Johnson is the zero waste home guru. She started the movement, and she wrote the book Zero Waste Home, which you can still buy at the latest version on Amazon for about $16. And it's really well worth the read. Lots of tips and tricks about how she took her family of 4, 2 boys, young boys, herself, her husband, and a dog. And after the global financial crisis, they ended up downsizing and moving closer to their work environment in the city that they were living in, somewhere in America, so that they could bike to work and walk to various attractions and live a more local life. And what she tried to do during that to save money, it started out being saving money, but also ended up saving the environment, was that she tried to rid her family of waste. She ended up with those 4 humans and a dog. Their annual waste would fit into a mason jar, which is the size of your pasta sauce jar, basically. That was their trash for an entire year, because she utilised all the recycling that was available. She reused things, she mended things, she fixed things. And so her trash for a whole year for a family of 4 fit into a mason jar. So Bea Johnson, great read, and also she's on YouTube. The other one is Lauren Springer. She's a young chicken, and she noticed at university that she was studying environmentalism, and she noticed that all the people were going to the canteen at lunchtime and bringing back what they call plastic clamshells full of food. So your little takeaway container that looks like a little bit of a clamshell full of food. And she's going, we're studying environmentalism. What the heck are we doing buying these things at lunchtime? And so she was more focused with young people of the day, and she's a fantastic person to follow, and her website is Trash is for Tossers, and Trash is for Tossers on Instagram. So if you want to find out more about how you can live a sustainable life, check out those 2 as well. Okay, so I have a bit of a disclaimer. I am an imperfect environmentalist in that once upon a time, and Trish will attest to this, I was a Tupperware demonstrator. Before I knew about plastics in the environment, I was a Tupperware demonstrator. And what I am saying to you by telling you that is that I still have Tupperware in my cupboard. There's no way I'm getting rid of all that Tupperware that I spent a zillion dollars on. It's quite expensive, and it stacks perfectly in my cupboard with all my pantry items, my flours and sugars and dates and you name it, but it all stacks really nicely. And until that stuff actually dies, I'm going to keep it. So even though with storage containers, they're not the most environmentally sustainable, I advocate use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. So once you've finished with it or its end of useful life comes along, then find a sustainable alternative. Don't waste money. Don't throw out all your cosmetics that are in plastic tubs and tubes, etc., in favour of getting glass ones until they're finished. And then when they're finished, try to find a more sustainable alternative. So that's my disclaimer, and I know that you probably understand that. And if you were to put them, say, into, say I decided to donate all of those containers to an op shop, then I'm just really passing on the problem to someone else. So I hope that makes sense. So don't get rid of everything just because you decided to go on the bandwagon of sustainability. Use it up, or make sure when you have finished with it, its end of useful life, that you buy something that's more sustainable. Now, there's 5 concepts to zero waste. We normally taught 3, which is reduce, reuse, recycle, but there's 2 more that are very important. One comes first and one comes last. The first one is refuse. So the important thing is not to bring all of the rubbish into your house in the first place. You don't want things to come into your house that you're going to have to deal with. So refusing things like when you go to the grocery store, if there's an alternative that's wrapped in paper versus plastic, or cardboard box versus plastic container, then try to refuse the plastic and take this more sustainable alternative. And we'll talk more of that when we're going through the program. Reduce the amount of plastics that you bring into the house. Reuse things that you can, like glass jars. I know I have Moccona jars with nuts and seeds and oats and things in them in the cupboard. So reuse as much as you can. Reuse, what else? I was thinking about socks for some reason. Darn your socks and reuse them rather than throwing them in the bin, that sort of thing. Recycle, make sure you know which bin it goes in. And the easiest way to do that, Gold Coast City Council or Scenic Rim Regional Council both have websites or parts of their council website that have printables, things that you tell you what can go in your bin. So make sure that you find those. And if you need to, and I did this right back in the day, about 10 years ago, I would print out what went in my little recycling receptacle under the kitchen sink. I printed out a pictorial of what my husband and son could put in the recycling and stuck it to the front of the container or the bin. So it's always good to know what goes in the bin that, you know, gets picked up curbside. And then if you've got other things that don't go in the curbside recycling bin, then you can go to your local tip, ask the question, because different councils have different ways of treating waste. So you need to know what's good for your area. And the last one, which is actually my favourite, believe it or not, is rot. So food waste is a huge problem in Australia. And if you can stop food waste going into the waste system, the landfill system, then why not do it? So having a worm farm or a compost heap in your backyard is the way to go. Now, I managed an apartment complex for 3 years, and we only had the postage stamp little balcony to put things on. But I bought a worm cafe and some compost worms. I put them on that little balcony. If you do the worms right, you won't have any smell or any mess or anything like that. So you get your worm farm, and I put all of our fruit and veggie waste out, even phone books, seriously, because people don't use phone books, but they kept getting delivered to the complex. So I'd rip out the pages of the phone book and feed them to the worms day after day, week after week. So finding some way to rot those food items so that you don't end up putting them into landfill, that would be awesome. Sorry, was someone asking something? No? Okay, cool. So moving right along, where do we start? That's the important thing, because I know a lot of people go, well, this is a huge problem. I've got a family of 4 or 5 or whatever. Where on earth do I start? So here's what we do. What I advocate is a waste bin audit, because you want to know what is going into your bin to start with so that you can come up with some solutions to combat them coming home, that waste coming home. So the day before your recycling bin and your waste bin go out to curbside recycling and curbside pickup, like for us, it's a Sunday, we put the bins down. On Sunday, put some newspaper down on the floor, the bench, out on your patio, wherever you feel comfortable, and empty your kitchen tidy onto it. And your little bathroom bins. If you've got bathroom bins, empty that stuff onto it as well. And then do an audit. Put on your rubber gloves or your gardening gloves and sort through your waste and make a strategy so your family's not bringing that stuff in. You might have egg cartons in there, you might have waste, you might have peelings from your vegetables the night before, you might have plastic water bottles, you might have cans from canned tomatoes, you might have bottles, wine bottles, you might have beer cans, etc., egg cartons, all sorts of things, and then you can develop a strategy. But you need to know what's coming into your house and then develop strategies for each of those different items, which some of which we'll talk about as we go forward. The other thing that I think is hilarious is that we have the wrong size bins for things. Usually your trash bin, the stuff that goes into landfill, is the largest bin in your house. We should be aiming for it to be the smallest bin in the house. And we need a bigger recycling receptacle and a bigger compost receptacle. So have a look at the size of your bins and maybe change those up as well. And I would advocate for getting rid of bathroom bins altogether, because everyone puts everything in the bathroom bin, they don't sort it out. And either it's left to you as the mum, or it doesn't get sorted and all goes into the trash anyway. So I would really suggest that you don't have bathroom bins, and that means that people, when they have their toilet roll core, they have to come to the kitchen or wherever your main bins are located and actually go, where should I put this? Where does it go? Just so you know, it can go in the compost heap, it can go in the worm farm, or it can go in recycling. So get rid of those little bins. I think they're a waste of time and energy. The next place to start is when you go shopping and put things in your cart or bring things to your home, you put on your global goggles or use the planet as your lens for making your purchasing decisions. Become a conscious consumer. So when you go to pull something off the shelf in the supermarket, think, do I really need it? If I really need it, okay, what am I going to do with this, the waste of it, the packaging of it, when it comes to the end of its useful life, where's it going to go? How am I going to deal with it? And then if you can answer all those questions, then pop it in your trolley. If you can't answer one of those questions, well, then do you really need it, or is there a more sustainable alternative that you could be looking at purchasing instead? Be a conscious consumer. So in order to do shopping the way I do shopping, you need to put together in the boot of your car a zero waste shopping kit, because you're going to go and shop differently. So you need some reusable tote bags, which you probably already got, because we want to use those instead of getting those plastic ones that we're now being charged for. Some produce bags. Now, if you don't have produce bags, you can see the little net bag that's up here. You can purchase those at Howard's Storage World, lots of places, but I actually have some that were given to me that were made out of sheets that someone had just cut, sewn and put a drawstring on, and they're lightweight, so when you put them on the scales with your handful of beans or handful of mushrooms in them, they really don't add to the weight of the produce. So produce bags are important, so you don't use the plastic ones that are provided for you at the supermarket. And I do believe that sometime this year produce bags are actually going to be outlawed in some supermarkets as well. Glass jars to fill with nuts and seeds and oats and things, cereals and stuff, because you're going to go purchase in different areas of the supermarket or different shops altogether. Glass bottles that you can fill up with vinegar, shampoos, oils, soy sauce, that sort of thing. A bread bag, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, and a marking pen. So when you go to a bulk food store, the person behind the counter weighs your jar, and with the marking pen, they write the tare weight of your jar, and then you go and fill your jar with whatever you want to buy, bring it back, and they weigh it again, and you're charged just on what you're using, what you've filled it with. And egg cartons. Well, it depends where you buy your eggs. I get them from a local producer, and I just pop some egg cartons in her little, those little cubbies by the roadside. I pop the egg cartons there, and I take my eggs from her. So I'm reusing egg cartons. So a zero waste shopping kit is handy to have in the boot of your car. Oh, please excuse the old photos of me. These were taken years ago. So locally here in Canungra, we have OWL, which is organic, what is it called? Organic with Love, which has a bulk food section. So you can go into the back of the store, you can scoop out what you need, your nuts, your seeds, your treats even are in there. You can fill up your container with peanut butter that's fresh. You can fill up with honey, all those sorts of things. So shopping at a bulk food store will not only save you money because you're not spending money on packaging, but you get as much as you need. So sometimes that your recipes call for ingredients that are specific and special, and you won't ever use a whole packet of hemp seeds again in your life, but you need 2 tablespoons of them. Well, you can go and buy 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds from a bulk food store. So that's a good thing to do as well, shop in bulk. The other one is the Source Bulk Foods, which depends where you live. You'll have to search your local environment. Here I am again. So this is revisiting the topic of bread bags. Have a think about your family and how many loaves of bread you use a week. This is even more important now because REDcycle has stopped recycling soft plastics. So we want to try and limit or reduce the amount of soft plastics that we take home with us, because there is no place for them to go at the moment. So I made these bread bags many years ago. The easiest way to make a bread bag for yourself, you can just use a pillow slip, by the way. No one will question you. But 2 tea towels, 2 fresh tea towels, right sides together, and you sew down the long side across the bottom and up the other long side, and then turn it the right way in. And if you get really tricky, you could add some tape or recycle some ribbon or lace or whatever to the edge of a side seam, like about, let's say, a ruler worth, and that becomes your tie. Very simple sewing skills required, and you'll have a bread bag that will fit at least 2 cafe-sized loaves and at least a dozen, probably even more, like 2 dozen bread rolls in it. So just think about how many plastic bags that will save you taking home over a year. Bread bags, love them. The other way to shop more sustainably is to go to your local produce market, and that's obvious. You don't need to use plastic at all. They have it out on display. You can pop it in your own produce bags, in your own reusable tote bag, and you don't have those stupid little stickers, which aren't biodegradable. They're plastic. So you don't have stickers, and you get to have a lovely day out or a lovely morning out, have a coffee while you're walking around in your reusable cup, of course, and enjoy the atmosphere of And it reduces your food miles, which is really important in terms of sustainability as well. All righty, moving along, because I know I do rant and rave. Here we go. So let's talk about food storage and service. Well, I mentioned about my Tupperware, but the rest of the stuff that's in my cupboards is recycled jars, usually pasta sauce jars or mainly tomato paste jars, Moccona jars, that sort of thing. Food storage in glass jars, or look at stainless steel containers for your storage. Just thinking once again about its end of its useful life. How is this going to, where am I going to put it at the end of its useful life? If it's glass, it's infinitely recyclable. So if you break something that's glass, you put it in the recycling bin, it gets recycled into more glass products infinitely, which is quite amazing. In terms of storage, service rather, let's move on. Maybe I've moved on too quickly. I use a lot of bespoke timber utensils because I really like the feel of them and the look of them. So wooden spoons that have been made by a local person who likes to do woodwork and that sort of thing. I also have my spatulas are made out of wood as well. So try and think once again all about end of life. Where is this going to go? How am I going to deal with it at the end of its useful life? Now I've got a couple of photos of the screen that I want to talk to you about. The top right-hand one, up here, back to front, are my beeswax wraps. So we haven't had plastic wrap in our house for about 10 years. I don't have it at all. And I know there are some now that do break down, but our family's learned to live without it. I make my own beeswax wraps, but you can buy them readily available in lots of places. I know that the 4275 Collective, which is our artist co-op in Canungra, sells them. Someone local makes them. But if you're interested, later in the year, I will do a beeswax wrap making workshop, one-on-one, like not one-on-one, in-person workshop. So you can come along, make your own beeswax wraps that you can use at home. They literally are cotton fabric dipped in beeswax, and it permeates the fabric. I also put jojoba oil in because that helps the stickability. It sticks to itself a little bit better. And you put the wrap over your bowl, warm it, the wax with your hands, and it conforms to the shape of the bowl. Then when you put that bowl in the fridge, it hardens, and you can literally put another couple of bowls on top of each other. It's amazing, and it holds the food in. And beeswax is a natural antibacterial, so it's good in terms of keeping food fresh. I've got this picture from Eco Party Box down here. In terms of if you have a party, you have people over and you don't have enough plates and things, I would love you to stay away from plastic plates that are single use only and will just end up in landfill. Eco Party Box is a company where you can actually go online and order for your 45 guests. Say I've got 45 guests coming over. Can I have compostable plates, cutlery and cups for 45? And they'll send them to you in a cardboard box. And the other one is some cotton napkins down below. Instead of using paper napkins, most of them, particularly the white ones, have chlorine bleach in them. And so that leaches out into the environment if they go, even if you try to compost them, you're ending up with the chlorine bleach leaching into your land. So we don't really want that. Bayer Johnson actually uses tea towels. And I think that's great because tea towels are large as napkins. They cover your lap entirely. I think that's a wonderful idea. So invest in some cotton napkins instead of using disposable napkins. Party responsibly. I'm not talking about alcohol and drug use here, but other things. Think about when you have people over using things that you have. So hear me out here for a sec. Christmas Day, we had 16 people over for lunch. So I used real glassware because you could just collect it from your family. If you don't have enough, then you ask them to bring some glassware with them. It's a tradition in our family to use the family silverware, so we do that. So we had to wash up silverware, we had to wash up glassware. But for 16 people, I did not want to have to wash up plates and bowls as well. So I used the compostable bamboo, or no, they weren't. They're compostable, made from sugarcane mulch plates. And I lay the table arrangement was all gum leaves and things out of my garden on a big piece of brown paper that I buy in a roll. So big, what do you call that thing? Table runner. Table runner was a big piece of brown paper with all of these lovely flowers out of the garden and gum leaves scattered. And it was a really nice Australian bush Christmas theme, and everyone enjoyed it. And it was all sustainable. I literally dug a big hole in the backyard and I popped in all of the plates and bowls at the end of the meal. And within a week to 2 weeks, they break down to be part of your dirt, which I think is fantastic. This picture is really to remind me about gift giving. If you wrap something in gift wrap that has glitter on it or is shiny, then it can't be composted because it has a layer of toxic stuff on it that will give it that glittery look or give it that shiny look. So if you can go for the flat or the brown paper packages tied up with string and twine, wrapping something in a lovely tea towel. I know one Mother's Day I baked some banana bread for my mother and mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, and I wrapped it in a brand new tea towel and tied it up with twine and gave that to them as their Mother's Day gift. And mums really appreciate that stuff that you make them for yourself, you know. So try to think of alternatives. Same with the cards. One year we used dried gum leaves and I just used a Nico pen to write the name of the person on as a gift tag. So attached it to the Prezi. But I often use brown paper, twine and some dried flowers from my garden or a sprig of rosemary or some gum leaves because it looks really pretty and people appreciate that sentiment. And it is really about educating your family and friends too about what to bring into your house and what not to bring into your house. One year I actually made bags out of cotton fabric to put people's prezzies in for Christmas, and some of them took them home, some of them left them behind for me to reuse again, and I popped them in with the Christmas decorations so I could bring them out the next year, and some re-gifted them with presents to other people. So thinking outside the box, not to have, not to wrap in the glittery, expensive paper anyway. Next, I'm going to have to race through this. We've got 5 minutes to go. Food waste is a huge issue in this country, and it kind of does my head in. $8 billion worth of food is wasted in Australia each year, and that's enough to fill 460,000 garbage trucks. And if you put 460,000 garbage trucks end to end, it would bridge the gap between Australia and New Zealand just over 3 times. So it's unfathomable, isn't it? It's what on earth are we thinking? A third of the food that you bring into your home, not you, but in general, is wasted. So we need to find some ways to stop that waste. Tap water, water is another thing that's wasted. Here in Australia, we have some of the cleanest drinking water in the world. So why would you buy a plastic bottle full of water? These, as you can read on the screen, over 50 billion plastic bottles end up in landfills each year, and it's an absolute shame, absolute tragedy. And in terms of the resources that it takes to make 1 litre of plastic bottled water, it takes 3 litres of water to make 1 litre of plastic bottled water and 1/4 of a litre of oil. So yeah, it's not sustainable, and if you can avoid them, please do. Cleaning is important too in terms of toxicity. You don't want to bring toxic chemicals into your home, but let's talk about green cleaning. You probably look under your kitchen sink or in your laundry, under your laundry tub, and see lots of plastic bottles filled with lotions and potions that help to keep your house clean. But all you need to do is look back to the olden days and what our grandparents or great-grandparents used to do, because it still works today. Baking soda, vinegar and salt and essential oils. The best things that you can do to clean with. And I think I have another, So I make my own zero waste cleaning spray. We get oranges or lemons and we put the leftover peels in a glass jar, top it up with white vinegar and let it sit for a week in the cupboard. Then you strain it out into your squirty bottle and use it with bicarb soda that you put in a Parmesan cheese shaker, or you might use it for icing sugar. You know, those little stainless steel shakers that have the holes punched in the top. So then to clean, you shake the bicarb soda over your surface. It might be your stainless steel sink, your bathtub, your sinks in the bathroom, etc. And then you squirt the orange scented cleaner, let it fizz a little bit, which it will do because it's doing its job, and then get a clean cloth to clean it up. And I use, if it needs a little bit more scrubbiness, you know how you buy a bag of oranges and they come in that netting thing, it is plastic. So if you buy a bag of oranges and you've got that plastic netting or limes or whatever, use that plastic netting, stuff an old t-shirt into it, tie the end up, and it becomes a really nice scrubber that won't harm your non-stick surfaces. So even scrub your sink or whatever with that. So put the bicarb down, squirt it with the vinegar, use your scrubby thing, and then a clean cloth, maybe dipped in a bit of water to make it shiny and beautiful. Very easy to do and very non-toxic and zero waste. Okay, cleaning utensils. This is a quick one just to tell you that try and make sure that they're all natural as well, so that we can put them in the compost or put them in the worm farm at the end of their useful life. Now, this is my zero waste handbag. I know it looks quite large, but I have in it my bread bag, my foldable tote bag, my water bottle, coffee cup and produce bags, and a cutlery wrap, so that if I want to have something to eat while I'm out shopping or whatever, I've got my reusable spoon, fork, chopsticks and drinking straw in there, plus a napkin. A lot to carry around, I guess you'll say, but it saves me every time and I feel a lot better for having it. It's like the Boy Scout, always be prepared. So we're coming to the end of it now, and I just want to wrap up by saying that zero waste is a journey and everybody's different and everybody's families are different. But if you can make small changes every day or every week when you go and buy things, that will add up to huge results. And if you extrapolate that out over the number of people that you might educate along the way, then it'll make a huge result to Australia, to our planet, and to the environment. So thank you all for being on my webinar tonight. I hope you learned something. I know there's 3 chats there. I might quickly go to that. No, I don't buy, I go to Who Gives a Crap for my toilet paper. And that saved me during the pandemic because it came to me automatically. Woo, love it. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. If you have any comments, you can personal message me and I would really appreciate your feedback on how this went tonight. Love you all.